been playing Flak for a long time, but even that was insane damage to me. A couple of people that I've been playing online with told me that they're still struggling to do enough damage on Mayhem 4. That's why I decided to create my Crack Flak build guide. So you've seen that the build has incredible bossing potential, but it also has really good mobbing potential as well. You'll see on the minimap there's a lot of enemies around me right now, but that's not a problem for this build. This video will be broken down into the following sections: skill tree, weapons and gear, how to use the build. And keep in mind this is recorded before the new update came out to make the raid scale with the number of players you have. You'll see this build focuses on the red and green skill trees. That's to give us both critical hit damage and also survivability, more health regen, that sort of thing. We're going to do a quick overview of the skill tree. I'll do more detail in another video, but Grim Harvest, we just kind of needed 2 points to get further down to Megaball, so I've put it in here. You can move these 2 points around, but I like the damage. And Megaball is probably the most important part of this skill tree. It allows weapons like the Brainstormer and its many shock tendrils to land critical hits. And that synergizes really well with both headcap, reduces your action skill cooldown, and then also Leave No Trace, gives you ammo back in the mag. Now we're going to move on to the green skill tree, and this tree is geared more towards survivability with a little bit of damage, so you want to use Fade Away. As for the augments, we've gone with Not My Circus, just takes the heat off you just after you come out of Fade Away, and finally Unblinking Eye. Otherwise, I guess the only other change would be if you're bossing, and then I'd probably put Gorillas in the Mystic. Okay, so before we even start talking about any of the weapons themselves, we need to talk about the gear, because the most important thing that's going to help you in the raid, especially when you have gear that isn't optimized, like this purple shield that I've got, is having bonus on action skill and damage. The reason why these are so good, whenever we finish our action skill, we will not only be doing our normal weapon damage, but on top we'll be doing 50% bonus corrosive from the shield, and then 50% bonus cryo from the grenade. You don't need to have the best items to be able to run through the Mayhem 4 raid solo. You can make do as long as you have 1 or 2 choice pieces of gear. In the first lot, you'd ideally want a high single target damage weapon. The reason I use the Unforgiven is just to speed up the process a little bit. You can use the Unforgiven to do something called crit swapping. Basically, you shoot like a Torg shotgun in sticky mode, and before the stickies explode, you switch to your Unforgiven, and that crit boost will apply to the stickies, so you'll get 432% crit damage. Now, the Torg stickies that we have here that I'm going to show you are more than enough damage on their own. It just speeds it up a little bit for me. So I have the Iron Cannon in my second slot. Now you can have any rocket launcher. If you don't have the DLC, for example, then you could use a Quickie or a Hedgehog. They also work really well. Get a ×2 variant if you can. And corrosive obviously helps, but the Iron Cannon is really good because it's a really high damage rocket launcher. This weapon will always drop from Fabricate to Mark II from inside of the DLC. Ideally, you want something similar to this. If you have an anointment on it, on action skill end, increase splash damage by 125%, even better. Doesn't really matter if it's not corrosive, I would use that. Or if you wanted to, and you don't get a corrosive version, you can just get a ×2 with high damage. That would also work really well. Okay, moving on, we've got the double penetrating pneumatic bang stick. You had an anointment splash damage boost or action skill end 100% damage boost. That would also be, much better. And finally, the Brainstormer, which is probably the MVP of this build. I've got a really nice roll Brainstormer with on action skill end its bonus Incendiary, which is great because if I'm using this thing on action skill end, I'm getting shock and Incendiary from this gun alone, and then on top of that, on action skill end from my shield and my grenade, I'm getting cryo and corrosive, so we're doing 4 elements worth of damage, which is really good, really strong. I mean, even if you don't have the Incendiary anointment, you're still doing really good damage. The Last Standard Idol is a really good artifact. It helps us massively with survivability. Every time we get knocked down to half health, we'll get temporary invulnerability. Every time you get killed, you get 18% of your max health back. Finally, for the class mod, you can use the DLC 1 class mod. There are some bugs with it. So for me personally, I'm using my Cosmic Stalker. Now I do have a good roll on this, but I have tested with a normal one, one without splash damage and weapon damage. Using a normal one, you also get a good amount of damage, but the reason why it's so good, it increases all of your hunt skill powers by 25%, which is big because we have a lot of damage coming from here. You don't really need anything else other than this and the Brainstormer, I think, to finish the raid, but the Iron Cannon makes it a little bit faster. You basically put this into sticky mode. You go into Fade Away, either Fade Away with Gorillas in the Mist, which gives you the infinite shots, right? or you would use the 3-shot fadeaway and just keep bursting down until you have to reload. And then to make the whole process a bit faster, just as it makes you reload, switch to your unfigure brainstorm. Now this is crazy really cool weapon, because for flak, when you shoot this weapon, it will chain lightning tendrils between nearby enemies, and every single one of those chains has a chance to be a crit, thanks to Megavolt, the skill we talked about earlier being really important. And if it does crit, then not only does it have a chance to proc your head count, but it also has a chance to proc your Leave No Trace. Now head count gives you reduced cooldown, so you're getting into fadeaway much faster, just after you've used it. And then Leave No Trace gives you ammo back, means you don't have to reload. You're normally sustaining quite easily the whole fight. And right at the beginning of sort of Mayhem 4 coming out, that was the big problem. People didn't have enough damage and they kept running out of bullets, right? So this really helps with that. If I'm using this thing on action skill end, I'm getting shock and incendiary from this gun alone, and then on top of that, on action skill end from my shield and my grenade, I'm getting cryo and corrosive. So we're doing 4 elements worth of damage, which is really good, really strong. I mean, even if you don't have the incendiary anointment, you're still doing really good damage. Just shock, corrosive, cryo, or you can switch your cryo grenade for an incendiary grenade, and play around with it to get that incendiary if you really wanted it. But this is really big. This helps us to deal with a lot of mobbing. The iron can's really good because it's a really high damage rocket launcher. But the reason why it works so well is because every time we shoot, so we're going to fade away, we get 3 shots. First 2 shots do good damage, right? The 20k times 2. And then the third shot will not only do that same really high damage of the rocket launcher itself, but it will also then proc the action skill end 50% boost on top. And that's really good because that action skill end boost, the damage boost of 50%, it scales off the weapon. So the higher damage a weapon is, the more damage you'll do. Now the one thing you need to make sure you know is that you need your kill skills up to be able to do this level of damage. So kill a couple of badasses, chain them with the brainstormer, hit them with the iron cannon, kill a badass, and then you'll get a couple of stacks of the kill skills that you need. Then you should be able to one-shot WOTAN. If you don't, then you'll do much less damage. And that's the end of the video. If you found it helpful, drop a like. If you've got any questions, leave a comment. I'll try and get back to everyone, and hopefully I'll be able to make a couple more build videos, not only for flak but some of the other vault hunters as well.